Well, it's our final week in our graduate research and design class, and I have been able to grade all of your assignments for the final proposals. Now, these won't be high on feedback, and the reason why is because, again, you at this point you should be able to understand the ins and outs of APA format, and also in the ins and outs of how to propose a research project and write a research proposal. And so that's why they're not high on feedback, even though you do have the option to resubmit these by Saturday night, and that's a changed date. You have to do it by Saturday because all work for the class has to be done by Saturday night. So be aware of that. Yeah, Saturday. Anyway, they're not very high on feedback, and for that reason, I think you're good enough to know. By now, you should know the ins and outs of APA format and research proposals. Examples versus reality. So just to look at the examples, some of you, might be upset that I wrote and said, well, you need to do headings in APA the right way. And the examples that I gave you may not have had those headings correct. In fact, I think I'm sure that one of them didn't. So, I just wanted you to be able to find yourself the APA format and make sure that you followed that well, even though the example that I gave you may not have had that, because really it's not about just following examples blindly. It's about being able to do the work yourself and understanding APA format. So anyway, I gave you some feedback on that. But as I mentioned, all the work that you want credit for this class must be in by Saturday night. And so that way I can just grade it, be done with the class. I do have to submit grades soon after that, so all work has to be done and in by then. This week's activities involve talking about evaluating research reports, and so you're going to read chapter 22 and do the quiz about that. You're also going to talk about reporting and critiquing research. How does this relate to maybe your work opportunities or a situation in your current or future work opportunity? What kinds of information might you look up? What kinds of literature reviews might you do now that you have that skill? And information that you might look up that might help you in your career. What an interesting thing that I've found with this class is that it actually is a opportunity for self-discovery when it comes down to it. Yes, it's a difficult class. It takes a lot of work. It's hard to get through. But a lot of times people choose topics that will help them to become a better whatever it is and help them to have a better self-discovery. If they're researching something that is of interest to them, it's usually because they've had some life experiences that have related to this. And those life experiences and looking up the research on those things and understanding that, hey, there are other people out there who've experienced this and other people who have studied these things really helps you on this journey of self-discovery. And so that's one thing I really like about this class is you have an opportunity to do that. With regard to your final proposals, one thing I wanted to mention is headings in APA. So let me talk about that for a minute. All right, so you have different levels of headings listed here. These are APA style headings for 6th edition. So this first style heading, that's the major sections of your paper, such as methods or introduction or those kinds of things, and even references, is going to be centered, boldface, uppercase, and lowercase heading. Okay, then your paragraph begins below, indented like a regular paragraph. And then headings beneath that are actually flush left, boldface, uppercase, and lowercase. So they're identical except that they're flush left. And so this would be, so under the methods section, for instance, you might have a section called instruments, right? You all have that. So that would be flush left, boldface, uppercase, and lowercase heading. And then the next level heading, you might have several instruments, for instance, so you might put list one instrument and then another, and that's indented, boldface, lowercase paragraph heading, ending with a period. All right, so that's the third level heading that you might have underneath that. Most people don't use 4th and 5th, but they are there as well for your use and for your knowledge. But anyway, I just wanted to make that clear as I reviewed some of your final proposals, that these are the ways, this is the official headings for APA style to use for future papers and so forth. And also one thing I wanted to mention too, as a parting thought, I guess, is that with your final proposals and with any research that you do, and any research that you read, the researcher needs to be cautiously reporting of their research. They can't be overly confident about their findings. In other words, you don't report things like, this will work in any situation because it worked in my study, or this is something that anyone can try and it should work just fine. You don't want to be that way. You want to be cautiously optimistic about it. You might want to say something like, because this worked in this study, it may work in other studies. So you see the difference there? We're just trying to be cautious about the results of our findings. Good researchers are always cautious, and they always also mention things like limitations to their research study. For instance, if it's a survey research study, the instructor or the researcher might say something like, these limitations of this study, though, is that this is just a snapshot of what people felt at the moment that they took the survey. And they may have changed their mind depending on different times and different opportunities that they may have to take the survey. So that's something to be aware of, is that good researchers will be cautious with their findings and with generalizing their findings, and they'll also mention limitations of what limitations they have with their research, the quality of the research, and so forth. They might talk about how the sample size isn't very big, or the number of participants isn't very big, or that the instrument itself has only been used in this one study or was created by the researcher and may not be validated, and those kinds of things, because that's honesty and that's important to share as we seek to gain a greater understanding of whatever it is that's being researched. So be thinking about those concepts as we finish out the class. There are 2 assignments that are due this week, and they are parting assignments. They don't really have a lot to do with your research proposal. That's done, but they do have some interesting items that you're supposed to complete. The first one is to evaluate a research article. And again, this is due Saturday. All work has to be due Saturday by 11:59 p.m., July 29th. And this tells you to complete task 11 from the textbook. And you're going to choose an article. Make sure you choose a different one than the one featured in the textbook. And possibly one from your literature review, which is a good idea. And then, evaluate that article. There's a form that you need to download. If you click on this assignment, and I think your view is going to be different than mine, but you can click on this assignment, and here you can hit Research Report Evaluation Form. That's basically what you do. You just need to fill out that form with regard to a specific article that you have chosen. That's all you need to do. So that's one, and you'll just go through the article, you'll read the article in depth and try to evaluate the quality of that article. It's just a way for me to help you to have good skills with evaluating the quality of research as you go forth to read the research. As you may know by now, some articles that are out there, not all articles are equal, some are not as strong as others in their quality of research. And so being able to look a little more critically into a single article is going to help you get started with that. And then the last assignment is the letter of consent. And this is the letter that you create for those participating in your study, and it asks you to include items 1 to 8 from this website here for your own proposed study. So this has to be an informed consent letter to possible participants in your own study that they would have to sign in order to be able to participate in the research. And again, this goes back to the research ethics that we've been learning about. It informs people about what they're getting involved in and when they can exit the research and not be a part of it anymore, and what their rights are as an individual. So those are the last 2 assignments for this week. I also want to encourage you to fill out the student opinions of instruction surveys that are active. I think they've been sent out and they are active now. So you should be able to check your Wolves email, Northern email, and find those and fill those out about this class as well. But yeah, that's about it. This is my last, presentation about what to do during the week. I'll just basically be grading those assignments as they come in and finishing out so you can get a final grade for the class, and whatever grade that is in your grade book should be your final grade for the class at the end. So make sure to get everything in by the end of July 29th. And good luck with the activities this week.